So this morning we have Reverend Dr. Jane Simmons, whom I think all of us are quite familiar with since she's been with us several times before, an inspirational speaker and thinker. And I, for one, are anxious to hear what she has to say today. Um, I forgot to ask this morning if there was anything that she was particularly working on that she wanted me to mention, but in just as general background, she holds a doctorate degree in theology from Holos University. Um, she's an ordained minister, of course. Before retiring from the pulpit in 2020, Jane ministered to 4 Unity churches and served as the International Teen Ministry Coordinator for Unity Worldwide Ministries. She's currently a member of the adjunct faculty of Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute, and along with her husband, Gary, co-facilitates the Integral Ministry Certificate Program. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. She's a very busy retired person, I guess. So welcome, Jane, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dennis. Hello, everyone. It's so good to be with you today. I always enjoy my visits to your wonderful community. So thank you for inviting me back. It's lovely to be here. Well, this time of year, I'm going to share my screen. As we're saying hello to spring as it's arriving, and just getting beyond the Easter season with its uprising of life, I am always inspired by the new growth that's shooting up through the earth. That just really grabs my heart every year to see it all starting to come. And it shows up despite this long, cold winter that we may have just gone through, up for us in the Northern Hemisphere, of course. And it goes right, and it comes through despite all of that winter when it appears that life has been absent, or at least dormant. But here's the truth. All winter long, even though we couldn't see it, under the surface, things have been percolating. Things have been happening and getting ready just to prepare to break through into blossoming with an unstoppable energy. My talk title is Inspired and Unstoppable. And we all have access to that kind of life-affirming energy that is inspired and unstoppable because it's bursting to come through so that we can create the world that we want to create. So are you ready to do that? Are you ready to do that? You know, I once read the story written by a woman who drove through a toll booth in San Francisco Bay Area back and forth twice a day. And one day, as she was approaching the booths, she could hear loud music booming from one of them. And so she drove up to that one and she looked inside, and there was a man inside, and he's kind of swaying to the music. And she said, "Well, you look like you're having fun in there." And he said, "Oh, yeah, I'm having a party." That's what he told her. And she looked around. She said, "Well, that's different. No one else in these toll booths seems to be having a party." So he said, "I have a choice every day at 8:30 in the morning. I can come into this toll booth, I can put my brain on hold, and then at 4:30, I can reemerge and go home again." Excuse me for 1 minute, please. Apologies. He said, "I can do that every day. I can put my brain on hold. I can be here all day and then leave here at 4:30, or I can have a party every single day." And then he pointed to the administration building and he said, "My boss is in there. They're paying for my dancing lessons right now because I'm going to be a dancer one day. I'm going to be a dancer one day, and my boss is paying for my training." And as he handed her the change, he said, "I don't understand why anybody would think my job is boring. Look at me. I have a corner office right here," he said. "I have glass on all sides. I have a great view of the Golden Gate Bridge, San Francisco, the Berkeley Hills." He said, "Half the Western world comes here to vacation, and I just stroll in every day and practice dancing because I'm going to be a dancer someday." And as I read about this, I thought this man was a visionary. And even though he had yet to fulfill his dream, he could see beyond his current situation. Not only that, but he could find a way to use it to prepare for his dream to come to fruition. My bosses are paying for my training. This man was inspired by his vision. And let me tell you, the power of that level of inspiration is a force to be reckoned with. Inspired and unstoppable. He's going places. Now, my talk title comes from a book of that name by Tama Keeves, one of my favorite authors. And she wrote this book to coach readers in how to follow their dreams. And she's well equipped to do that. Her first book that she wrote was called This Time I Dance, and it chronicles her experiences in learning how to live her dream. So Tama was a Harvard-trained, high-powered lawyer in line to become partner, very successful, very affluent. But all the time she was doing the work of being a lawyer, her heart was crying out to be a writer. And so after much agonizing soul searching, she took the plunge. She traded in her power suit for sweatpants, as she puts it. She left the world of law behind, and she began writing her book. And she did it against the advice of her parents, her coworkers, her friends, anyone she would talk to would all try to dissuade her from this. And she would run into former coworkers at the coffee shop that she began frequenting, and they would see her sitting at the table writing, and they would question her sanity. How could you give up what you had for this? And it took great faith on her part. It took immense courage for her to continue to follow her dream when she had all of these naysayers threatening to drown out the gentle inner voice that was nudging her to follow her heart. But she trusted that voice. She trusted it, and she consciously made the decision to follow it with a deep commitment, no matter what. She calls that voice the inspired self. The inspired self. We might also call it our higher self, or our inner wisdom, or infinite love, or the voice of spirit, or divine intelligence, whatever it is. She also calls it her yabba dabba doo divine intelligence. I think that's my favorite word for it. But she consults her inspired self regularly and is now highly successful in her writing, has authored several best-selling books. Her newest one just came out in March. I haven't got it yet. Now, I'm not suggesting we should all quit our jobs tomorrow or stop whatever we're doing with our lives to hang out in coffee shops in our sweatpants. Although you can do that. I actually do that a lot. But no matter where we find ourselves, you see, we can always uncover the blessing that is hidden within the situation, and we can choose to bloom where we're planted while at the same time continuing to take steps to get us to where we want to go. And we can begin this moment. We can begin right now to look at our world through a higher vision, through a more positive lens of how can I use what's happening right now in my life to help me more fully grow into who I've come here to be. Isn't that a great question? And when we ask ourselves that, we can understand, again, excuse me, my I apologize. I came home from a trip to Canada with some kind of throat thing happening, so hopefully it'll clear up. But when we ask ourselves, how can I use whatever's happening in my life right now to help me grow into a greater expression of who I am so that I can give my gift to the world? You see, that's the important part of this. And I ask myself that question every single day after I watch the news. I have to admit, when I watch it, it's like, oh, okay, how can I use whatever's happening to help me grow into a greater expression of who I am? Because all of us have a gift within us that the world needs, some kind of a gift. Do you know that about yourself? You have a gift that the world needs. In fact, it's a genius, I would call it. The same genius that was within Picasso and Shakespeare and Mozart and Einstein. Every one of us has that, and humanity desperately needs us to both discover and express that genius. now more than ever. Do you feel that in the world right now? So how do we access this genius? Through our yabba dabba doo divine intelligence, through divine mind, connecting with that infinite source within us. And of course, it doesn't have to be in the areas of music or science or art or literature. It can be, but it can also be in the way we love our children, or take care of our garden, or write a letter, or make a pot of soup, or console a friend, or inspire someone, or organize a closet, or hammer a nail, or as my husband has done, build yourself a few airplanes. Why not? So you have an inspired self ready to guide you right now in your spiritual evolution, in your growth into something greater, and into who you truly are. One of my favorite Rumi questions, hey, why crawl? You're born with wings. Why indeed? We are meant to fly. And discovering that genius that we're here to express and sharing that with the world, it's all about unearthing and liberating the imprisoned splendor that is within us, letting it fly free. So what is within you waiting to be unleashed on the world? What's your inspired self telling you? If something is calling you, if your heart is longing to do something, if there's an activity that you feel the most alive when you are engaged in it, pay attention to that. Pay attention to it. Trust that voice. You know, there's a saying that we don't choose our dreams, they choose us, and we are never given a dream without the means to make it happen. So we want to pay attention to our dreams and to the things in life that are bringing us joy. Pay attention to those things. DeWitt Jones is a celebrated photographer who has worked for decades for National Geographic magazine. And he thinks of his work as celebrating what is right with the world. He often talks about that. And it shows in the beautiful imagery that he captures. And because he looks through the lens of what is right with the world, guess what? He finds it. He finds it. And a defining moment came for him in shifting to this way of thinking and actually living his life when he was driving his daughter to a gymnastics meet. She was not at all enthusiastic about competing. And she said to him, "Can't I just do gymnastics because I love it?" And he realized, yes, you could. Of course you could. You could do what you love for the sheer joy of it and not have all the fun and the life drained out of it by putting extra pressure on yourself. And it was an aha moment for him. And when we do what we love just for the sheer joy of it, we are serving the world in a big way, in a big way. So think about what you love to do, what brings you joy, what makes your heart sing, what lights you up. Find a way to do it. Find a way to do it and dance in your toll booth if that's what it is. Now, there are two facets to being inspired and unstoppable. There's the being inspired part and the being unstoppable part. And the combination comes from a marriage between the inner and the outer, between idea and expression, between stillness and action. You see, it's between being and doing. We need them both. So it's one thing to aspire to be a dancer, to imagine it, to visualize it, to feel my inner dancer coming forth. It's quite another to dance my way through 8 hours in a toll booth every day. So it's important that we get still. We listen to our inspired self because the inspiration you may be seeking is already within you. It's already there. Call upon it. You won't be steered wrong by your inspired self. Let it nudge you in the right direction. And when you get the guidance, follow it. Follow it. As you do, you have to realize that sometimes there may be twists and turns in the journey. Reading Tama's story, we find, it was not all roses for her when she was on this journey. She had lots of things to overcome on her path, and she wasn't just suddenly leading a charmed life. Her faith was continually being tested as she went along. She was often filled with doubt and confusion. But the overcoming part of it is how we grow into who we've come here to be, as we grow through those obstacles. And she kept on following her inspired self through the twists, through the turns, until a way opened up for her that she hadn't seen before. There's a wonderful story from the Sufi tradition about a river that passed through the countryside, and it carved its own way as it went. It had a very powerful, strong current, very forceful energy, until one day that mighty river met the desert, a vast desert, and there was no way it could pass. Now what? It heard the voice of the wind saying, just let go and I'll get you across. And so the stream surrendered to the wind. And it was drawn up, evaporated, taken high up in the sky, blown across the desert, and rained down into another stream. Now, we all have those desert moments in life, those times we can't move forward. We all have this powerful masculine energy that can move us into taking action. But when we come to those desert experiences, how do we overcome those? Same way, surrendering to the divine flow of spirit. It's our feminine energy. It's universal source. It's infinite love. And when we let it lift us, let it carry us, we can move forward, even if it just seems like little baby steps. So when we find ourselves stuck in that liminal space, sometimes called hell in the hallway, those desert moments, time when it seems like it's winter, that nothing's happening, it's then that we're called to faithfully continue taking baby steps on our journey, steadily, with conviction, committed to following our spirit-led vision, making every single one of those baby steps be in alignment with the vision that we're seeking to fulfill. Do you feel the power of that? We may slow down in what we do, but we don't stop. We keep on going. And in a culture that's very results-oriented, this can be a real radical act, for sure, to allow and trust that infinite love is going to carry us through something and is going to guide us, especially when what we're facing appears to be insurmountable. That's a tough place to be when it looks like there's no way around this. And now what do I do? To sit back and to allow spirit to nudge us gently, to lift us, to carry us. That's a real radical act, and it takes faith. But we have to remember that the outer appearances are not the truth of what is happening, right? It may appear something is insurmountable, but it's not the truth. So we don't want to ignore what's going on in our world. Certainly don't want to stick our head in the sand and, nothing happening here. But we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We want to keep our vision focused and clear, Continue following that vision, being the change that we want to see in the world, even if we aren't seeing the results we want as of yet. Just before the Berlin Wall came down, the communist leader, Erich Honecker, at the time, was asked how soon he thought it could happen. He said, this wall is secure for another 100 years. Less than 100 hours later, it crumbled. So even if things look impossible right now, trust in the power of focused visionary consciousness married with sustained action. It will ultimately lead us to success. But transformation takes some work. Have you noticed? It takes commitment. It takes discipline. We have to keep showing up. We have to keep following the trail, because the neural pathways in the brain don't just automatically change without a shift in our actions. And there are accountabilities for us on the spiritual path. I mean, I can't ask someone to meditate for me, can I? Go and meditate for me today. Or deepen my connection to the divine today, would you please? No. I can't ask somebody to take steps for me to grow into who I truly am either. Oh, that's my part. Those are my part. But when we're on fire with what we're doing, commitment to the path comes naturally. Work feels like play, and we do it for the love of it. When we can get to that point, we are ready to rock. So we need the masculine energy of taking action, but it has to be married with the feminine soul energy, and then we will see the results that we desire. So surrendering to a heart-centered soul energy allows it to lift us. It allows it to inspire us, to guide us. And then based on the guidance that we receive, now we use the masculine energy to take action. A quote from her book that really spoke to me: 1,000 actions are less effective than one true connection. So forcing things without the heart connection, we're just spinning our wheels over and over and over again. So what is your inspired self guiding you to be and to do? How are you being guided right now? We have to get still and ask and spend time in the silence, listening. But it's so easy to get distracted, isn't it? To lose focus, to just follow our internal default, operating system as it is. But Tama asked this question. It's a great question. Why limit the dynamic multidimensional intelligence within us? Why do that? It's a great question, If our current conditioned behavior is actually creating what we don't want, why constrain the infinite? Why do that? Why settle for crumbs? We can have the whole enchilada here. So the best way that I know to get beyond living a conditioned, limited existence, get anchored into the infinite. Get anchored into the source of divine love. Let it guide us. Let it steer us. And guess what? It may be a loving, gentle voice, but make no mistake. Infinite divine love is powerful. It's motivating. It's fierce. It's fearless. It's uplifting. It's inspiring. It truly is. And it will lead us into tapping into our inner genius. But that won't happen if we stay steeped in judgment and fear, or if we're mired in the quicksand of self-doubt and shame, guilt, whatever that is. If we stay stuck there, then the way in will elude us. The door will firmly stay shut. But here's the good news: that door opens from the inside. As Swami Beyondananda's wisdom tells us, there's no key to the universe. It's been left unlocked. But the door only opens if the conditions are right. And it has to be in an environment of compassion. Not only compassion, kindness, acceptance, and it starts within with self-compassion, self-kindness, self-acceptance. We have to move to that way of being with ourselves. And now that door can nicely open up. Gently, but firmly open up. But there's no forcing our way in. You see, we can't coerce inspiration, because life is continually reflecting back to us what is within us. Continually. And it's showing us what our true motivation is. Are we coming from fear or love? Very important distinction in how our actions, what results we get. And if that voice within us is telling us that we can't, or that we don't have what it takes to be successful, if it starts running movie reels of, clips showing all the mistakes that we've made in the past and how much we screwed up, well, we can safely say that is not the inspired self talking, can't we? That's not the voice of love. That's the voice of fear. And that voice of fear is what has been responsible for creating any disempowering stories we have been living so far. And if we find ourselves living a myth of an uninspired life, the myth of an uninspired life, stuck in a rut of limiting beliefs and limiting behaviors, guess what? Our inspired self can lead us out of that story, out of that morass, into the truth of the field of infinite possibility, infinite potential, where all things are possible, where all things exist in potentiality. And in that potent place, now we have the opportunity to be the change that we're seeking in the world. And boy, is the world hungering for the sharing of our inspired gifts. So what amazing gifts do you have to offer? I mean, we don't have to save the entire world this minute. We just need to be more fully who we've come here to be right now. Do you see? We have to find what's calling us. We have to show up in that capacity. We have to bloom where we're planted. So we can't fix everything, but we can be totally present and lovingly attend to the environment we currently inhabit. And it takes courage to do that, to express the truth of who we are. But all of us have what it takes to be who we've come here to be and to gift the world with our genius. And to paraphrase Martin Luther King, if we're called to be a street sweeper, we should do it even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. We should sweep streets so well that the hosts of heaven and earth will pause to say, and this is my favorite line from the whole quote, "Here lived a great street sweeper who did their job well." I love that. So let's take the time to become inspired, to be more fully who we have come here to be, blooming where we're planted, being who we really are, no matter where we are. Do you see? Viewing life through the lens of our spiritual vision. Because every single one of us has a mighty power that is within us, that is beyond what we are seeing as our small r reality. And that power will lead us. It will awaken our creativity, our resourcefulness. It will energize us to move beyond the limiting beliefs that we may have been buying into that are blocking us from moving forward. And it will lovingly eclipse any disempowering thoughts that we have been thinking about ourselves and about our world. It will create a new story for us, a new transformative, inspired story, a loving narrative. We can do that, all of us. Because we're not limited by our abilities, we're limited by our beliefs about them. That's where our limits come. We're limited by this vision that we have about ourselves, the limiting vision. So connect with your inspired self. Open up to a greater idea of who you are and what your life is and the possibilities that are available to you right now. Open up. And then let previously unknown possibility, previously unrealized potentiality be liberated in your life. So whether you're a budding toll booth dancer, a Michelangelo of street sweeping, whether you want to do gymnastics for the fun of it, or like Tama Keeves, you know in your heart that you have a writer's soul, if there is a seed ready to blossom within you, whatever it is, your powerful, dynamic, multidimensional intelligence is bursting forth right now. It's ready to come forth. Are you ready to be inspired and unstoppable? And the correct response is yes. You can nod your head if you choose, right there. But I'm going to stop sharing now and invite us all to take a moment to go into a meditative place where the inspired self awaits us. And so I'll invite you to just settle into your seat. Get still. And again, we can let go of all of the activity of the morning and so far, and really focus on becoming present to this moment now. As we move our attention deep, deep within the body, if your feet are on the floor, just notice how that feels, the soles of your feet. Move your attention upward through your legs. And through the torso of your body, noticing any places of tension. What's going on in your body right now? If you do find places of tension, you can let them relax. You can tense it up and then relax if you choose. Then we move our attention upward to the head, noticing any places of tension around the eyes, the jaw, the tongue, the scalp. We carry so much stress. And we can just take the time right now to release, to surrender it to the greater self. We don't have to carry it around. So we begin to follow the breath in and out. And imagine breathing right into your heart space. As you bring into your mind's eye someone or something that you deeply appreciate. It could be a beloved person in your life, or a cherished pet, or a warm memory. Choose someone or something that activates a feeling of gratitude and let it warm your heart. Now we let that feeling grow and expand beyond the heart as it moves throughout the body. Every cell being bathed in this healing vibration of appreciation, gratitude. And we let it expand beyond the body, knowing that as we do, we create a coherent energetic field of harmony, of peace, that blesses our world, blesses our families, our community, and beyond. And as each one of us awakens to the truth of who we are, to the power that we can use for good, for positive change, we can step into that reality. We can hold the vision for a kinder, more compassionate world, one where all can benefit and thrive. If you hold that vision with me, and as we each become that world in expression, we bring it into reality. We know there's only one presence and one power, and that we are all interconnected. That as one person comes into alignment with the presence of God and becomes the presence in action, that all are benefited from this. And so we dedicate this time of stillness to the upliftment of humanity. And we give thanks for the opportunity to be the avenue, the vehicle through which Spirit expresses on this world. And for this truth, we are grateful. And so it is. Amen.